Hello, Rowan here. I feel like it's been a while since I've made a video. I don't think that's actually true, though. I'm pretty sure it's been less than a week, but it is Sunday, which means we've got another alphabet tag from Jim at Jim's Books, Reading, and Stuff. We are up to K. Let's do it. First prompt. K is for The Kite Runner. Have you read The Kite Runner, and what did you think about it? I have not read The Kite Runner. Kite Runner came out when I was in high school, and it didn't sound like something I would really be interested in very much. At the time, I was like really into Stephen King, and was just starting to kind of dabble with like literary postmodernism and things like that. And so it just didn't sound that interesting to me. And then people like immediately started like teaching it in high schools, and a few friends of mine who were like a year or two younger than me in high school ended up having to read it for school, and everybody that I knew didn't like it, and that kind of reinforced my decision to not read it. And I know that it's like kind of now, it's been almost 20 years since it came out, and it's become this, modern classic. But I probably am missing out, but like the story just doesn't sound like something that I would really enjoy that much. So yeah, never read it. Didn't see the movie either. There was a movie, right? I'm pretty sure there was a movie. K is for Kafka. How has a writer who never finished a novel so permeated our culture as to have an adjective named after him? It's a notable thing when an artist gets a adjective named after them. David Lynch is probably another great example. Lynchian, things being called Lynchian. I think it requires two really important things. They have to have a very honed, distinctive, and singular authorial voice, meaning that like you can recognize their work immediately because of the things that make them them. And then also I think that it requires there to have been some sort of watershed from their work where they're doing something new that hasn't really been done before. And then because of that, of course, people are going to be inspired by that and draw from that, and then the adjective is going to be used to describe the things that come afterward. So I think that definitely applies to Kafka. Absolutely. And then bonus question, what is your favorite of Kafka's three novels? I have to admit, I've only read one, The Trial, which I enjoyed a lot. I would like to read his other books. There is something very real to me about the just pervasive doom and hopelessness of Kafka's writing. One of those things that isn't necessarily like true to life, but feels true, So, yeah, I like Kafka quite a bit. K is for King. Which is your favorite novel by Stephen King? So I first started reading Stephen King when I was like 10. Had kind of a love affair with him. Read a number of his books. And then when I was like 15, I had this like year where I read the whole Dark Tower series, and then I read like every book that is like tertiarily related to it. So that's like, The Stand, and like Salem's Lot, and Insomnia, and Eye of the Dragon, all these other books that like characters appear in the Dark Tower or they cross over in some way. So up to the point of like 2005, I have read most of his books that come before then. And for many years, I would say that my favorite like single volume book of his was The Stand. And then late last year, early this year, CBS All Access, which is now called Paramount Plus, did an original series adaptation of The Stand, and I watched it, and it was like okay, but it made me want to read the book again, and so I got it, and I got like 200 pages into it, and I couldn't. It's a long book. It's like 1,400 pages long. I couldn't get through it. It's just not good, in my opinion. I think that there are a lot of good things about it. His character work is really good. There are a lot of really good, really memorable characters in it. But I think that the framing work of like good versus evil, the really sort of black and white morality of the book is really boring to me, and kind of like hacky and like ham-fisted. It's just not interesting at all, and it really kills the spirit of the book to me. So I don't think I can say that The Stand is my favorite Stephen King book anymore. I did start a couple of years ago, maybe 5 years ago. My ex and I started the Dark Tower series together. We were like reading it out loud to each other, and we got up through the like midway through the fourth book. I mean, people have mixed opinions on the fourth book. I don't. I think it's pretty bad personally, and it kind of killed our momentum, and we never finished the series. But those first three Dark Tower books are quite good. I remember when I first read them not really caring that much for the Gunslinger, but on reread I really liked it a lot. And I think maybe because it's so unlike anything else that he has ever written. So I might pick that. It's been so long since I've read The Shining. I read it when I was probably like 12. So my memory of the book is pretty hazy. Yeah, most of the rest of his stuff I have found just, it hasn't aged well for me. I just don't think that he is, he's good at certain things, but, I think that, like, he's got a lot of crutches in his work, and, like, the bloat. Like, I think people have a lot of love for his big books. Like, usually the ones that people are, like, gonna champion are The Shining, which is not huge, but, like, It and The Stand. And those are both very long, over 1,000 pages. And I think that they're just too long. Honestly, I think that holds the book back. I read It when I was 10, and loved it a lot, but I don't know. Also, I will never stop bringing this up, but like that book has a child gangbang scene in it, where like all of the boys run a train on Beverly in the sewer. So like, I mean, that was a choice that Stephen King made. I wonder why they didn't put that in the movies. Weird. Moving on. K is for Kennedy. Have you done the JFK tag created by Very Literary Kari? I have not. I have seen it around. I've seen other people do it. It is an interesting tag. Maybe I will do it myself in the near future. Next, I'm going to probably talk a little bit about this. K is for Kirk, as in James Tiberius. Who is your favorite Star Trek character? So, this is maybe a little blasphemous, but I'm not like a huge TOS fan, just personally. I grew up in the 90s, and I was raised by people who were big Star Trek fans, so I grew up watching TNG and DS9 and Voyager. If so, favorite character. I don't think I could just pick one. If I really had to, I would say Data, because like Data's, personal arc over the course of Next Generation is about, striving to become human and questioning what makes us human, what distinguishes us from robots. And I think that because of that quest, they're able to explore a lot of really interesting philosophical questions about humanity and morality and consciousness and things like that. They're very interesting. And Data's, innocence and childlike nature and just wholeheartedness and goodness is always so refreshing. When the pandemic first started, I rewatched the first 4 seasons of TNG. I kind of burned out after a while and just never got around to finishing it. And in some ways, I feel like, it would probably be alienating to younger people because they don't make TV shows like that anymore, really. But it holds up surprisingly well. And one thing that I really love about Star Trek is that it is not cynical. It's hopeful and, positive. And, bad things happen, but it's not gritty and dark. I feel like everything, nowadays, everything is gritty and dark, and The Sopranos ruined everything for television, I feel like. Not that I love The Sopranos, don't get me wrong, but so Data, favorite character. Geordi is another for sure favorite, and the friendship of Data and Geordi, one of my favorite things about TNG. If I had to pick a favorite captain, it would be Sisko. Sorry. I mean, that might be a little bit of a hot take. Though I feel like in recent years, the DS9 is underappreciated discourse has become more talked about. There's just so many good characters in Star Trek. There are definitely a few stinkers. Looking at you, Deanna Troi. That was a missed opportunity if I ever saw one. TNG definitely, I think, suffers from not having good female characters, which is unfortunate, I think. I do think that they make up for that a bit in in DS9 and Voyager. Not that Voyager is amazing, but Janeway is a good female character. Yeah, and I think the rewatching TNG, that was really interesting because I was rewatching it at the same time that Picard, the first season of Picard, was airing, and I was watching it every week when it would premiere with my parents, and that show is not good at all, and Discovery is also not good. And I think that when I talked about a minute ago how they just don't make TV like how Star Trek used to be anymore, and how everything needs to be like gritty and etc. etc. Like that holds true of Discovery and Picard. It just doesn't feel like Star Trek, you know. It doesn't feel right. Like Picard, you know, you've got all these familiar faces, but they're doing and saying things that make no fucking sense for them to be doing if you have any real knowledge of the characters and like their backstories. And it feels like a it feels like there's a YouTube channel called Red Letter Media that are a group of friends from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, who are filmmakers and film critics, and they do reviews of movies and film and television. They've been around for a long time. You may remember them. They first came to be known and went viral around the year like 2010 for publishing the 70-minute Phantom Menace review, which is a 70-minute long video essay review of Star Wars Episode 1. And that was back when like YouTube videos could only be 10 minutes long, and so it was like posted in 7 pieces, and like so they're like old school. They've been on YouTube for a long time. But they have this recurring thing that they do called the Nerd Crew, which is like making fun of like nerd fandom and like the sort of just like stan culture of like sci-fi fantasy fans. And there's this part in one of the videos that kind of became like a meme.
Well, back to Star Wars news. There is one positive thing recently. Jon Favreau's Star Wars show is gonna happen. It's called Star Wars Mandalorian, and it's about Boba Fett, or Boba Fett's race or culture or something. I guess there's a planet called Mandaloria where Boba Fett's live. There's so many Boba Fetts. Do you remember Boba Fett?
Gotta give it up for Boba Fett.
I do remember Boba Fett.
Give it up for the man in the Mandalorian armor, ladies and gentlemen.
Boba Fett.
Boba Fett.
Remember Boba Fett?
Boba Fett.
He's coming back.
Boba Fett.
Boba Fett, I remember him. I remember his costume.
He's got a backpack and he flies.
He can shoot a wire out of his forearm and wrap you around.
He's so cool.
He fell into the Sarlacc pit monster, but
he's so cool and mysterious. He wears a mask.
He got out of the Sarlacc pit monster.
Wait, guys, I forgot what we're clapping for this week.
Check your email. See what Bob said. Yeah. I think it was the Boba Fett show, Star Wars Mandalorian.
Oh, gotta give it up for Boba Fett.
Boba Fett, you guys!
Boba
I can't wait for it to come.
And that's like the most like perfect encapsulation of how Picard felt to me. It was like I saw Boba Fett and I clapped, where it's just supposed to be like, hey, it's Data. Data's here. Everybody loves Data. Hey, Riker's here. Everybody loves Riker. And it, you know, and the thing that's really sad is that like the showrunner, if I remember right, he was the showrunner. He definitely wrote on it. Was Michael Chabon, the Pulitzer Prize winning novelist, a guy who can write. He's written good ass books. I've read a couple of them, and he's like a self-described big Star Trek fan. So I have no idea how that show ended up being just a complete hot piece of shit. But it did. And will I watch the second season of Picard? Of course I will. Will it be terrible? Of course it will. Anyways, I said I was going to talk about that for a while, and I was right. Next, K is for Korea. Can you recommend a book or author from Korea? The peninsula of Korea. So I don't think I've ever read a novel by a Korean author. I am a big fan of South Korean cinema. Of course, South Korean cinema has been more in the zeitgeist in the last year or two because of the success of Bong Joon-ho's Parasite. Bong Joon-ho, of course, had been on my radar for quite a while. I'm sure a lot of people knew who he was before Parasite, though Parasite really kind of like really catapulted him. But he had done Snowpiercer and Okja, and I first found out about him because of his movie The Host, which is like a sort of monster movie, very good monster movie, and he made Memories of Murder. Amazing filmmaker. My first real introduction to South Korean cinema was when I was in high school and I saw Old Boy for the first time, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I became like obsessed with it and got really into Park Chan-wook, who's the director of that, and his Vengeance trilogy, which it's a part of, and then his other films as well. And South Korean cinema is fantastic. But I don't think I've ever read any South Korean literature. And as far as North Korean art, there is not much to be had. I have seen the movie Pulgasari, which is a kaiju movie that was made by... This was a story that's become sort of famous in recent years. There was a book written about it, and I think they made a movie out of the book as well, where Kim Jong-il, who is a very big movie fan, kidnapped a Japanese filmmaker and forced him to make movies for North Korea. And one of the movies he made, the only one that's like ever left North Korea and has become available to people to see around the world, is this kaiju movie, Pulgasari. And a buddy of mine, Andrew, who runs a VHS label, actually put out released copies of this. I guess it's a bootleg technically, but whatever. So I own that. I own a VHS of Pulgasari. But for books, when Kim Jong-un first came into office after his father died, around like 2011, I started getting really interested in North Korea. And I think that like the interest in North Korea has intensified a lot in the time since then. This was before, the Seth Rogen movie, and like before the like Trump and Kim Jong-un connection happened and all of that stuff that sort of intensified the interest in North Korea. But I read a number of books about North Korea because I was so interested in it back in the early 2010s. So some of the books that I really enjoyed, Nothing to Envy by Barbara Demick. This is probably the best one if I was going to pick a North Korea book. It's a ethnography of a handful of different people who all fled the country and defected during the famine in the 90s that killed a huge percentage of the North Korean population. And it was people from all, lots of life, from very poor to, high-ranking government officials. And that was a very interesting book. Escape from Camp 14 by Blaine Harden. That is a biography of a man who was born and raised in a North Korean concentration camp, and he is the only person born in a North Korean concentration camp to have ever successfully fled the country. And it's just a biography of him, his life story. Very, very foul and fucked up, but very good. The Aquariums of Pyongyang is another good one. It's another mostly about Gulag life. Obviously, in the terms of fiction, you have The Orphan Master's Son by Adam Johnson, which was a very popular book when that came out, like 7 or 8 years ago. So yeah, I don't think I've ever actually read any fiction by Korean authors, but those are some good non-fictions about North Korea. So, yeah. K is for Kindle. What am I reading on my Kindle? Nothing. I do own a Kindle. I got it for free when I worked at Half Price Books. I don't even remember the circumstances of how it came to be in my possession. But I have it. And I have tried reading stuff on it before. It's just not for me. So yeah, I just don't. I don't read ebooks, really. Sorry. K is for killer. What book from reading past took you into the mind of a killer? I do talk about this book a lot, but it is definitely the first thing that came to mind when I read this prompt, and it's Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. This is a story about a group of Americans who go as a gang to Mexico and get hired initially by the government to kill Apaches. And they do. They kill a whole lot of Apaches, men, women, and children. And then they just start killing like everybody. It's pretty foul. It's a notoriously fucked up and hard to read book that has a lot of very graphic and extreme violence, including the murder of children and things like that. And it's told from the perspective of one of the members of the gang who commits genocide against Native people. And I think that the sort of dispassionate, cold tone of the book does lend a lot to putting you inside the mind of a killer, as the prompt would ask. One of the best books I've ever read. It definitely not for everyone, not for the faint of heart. Oh, there's a cat who's come to visit me. Oh, it is Beetle. It's my parents' cat. He weighs 27 pounds. I would pick him up to show you, but he is laying on the floor. Hang on. There he is. He's a big dude. No shade. I mean, I'm a big dude myself, but he's one of the fattest cats that I've ever seen. So he really wants me to pet him, so bear with me. You like belly rubs? Yeah. Pardon the interruption. And then one more prompt. I don't think Jim actually mentioned this in the video, but it's listed in the prompt list in the description. K is for kind. What kind of books don't you read? I will say that there isn't really any genre that I flat out refuse to read. There are definitely things that I don't read very often. Like romance. I don't read romance very often, but, like last month, I read Chuck Tingle's Transwizard Harriet Porber and the Bad Boy Parasaurolophus, which is a erotica novel. And I enjoyed it fine. It was I gave it a 3 out of 5. So I don't read romance very often. I don't read epic fantasy. I think I've reached a point where I'm comfortable just giving up on epic fantasy after I tried to read the Stormlight Archive, and I just couldn't do it. If that's... I mean, people are pretty vocal that that is the crowning achievement of modern fantasy, and so I just don't think it's for me. I don't read very much mystery, particularly popular mystery and mystery series. It's just not for me. I don't really care that much about Like, I don't like... I enjoy mysteries and solving mysteries and mysterious things, but it doesn't, like speak to my soul. It doesn't, like, set my heart on fire, you know? And I do find that a lot, especially the popular mystery and the mystery series, the quality of the prose is usually, like, not great, and that always turns me off too. So, yeah, that's all the prompts. So I think that this video is done. It's on the shorter side for me, about a half hour. So cool. And there was a cat cameo. So get those internet points. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Good night.